guys, let's dive into one of the most controversial topics in football today, the Ballon d'Or nominations for 2024. The list is finally out, and before all the football fans here start tearing down France football's reputation, let's first understand what's new this year. For the first time since 2003, neither Cristiano Ronaldo nor Lionel Messi is on the nomination list. That's 21 years of dominance, where Ronaldo racked up 18 nominations and Messi 16. Ronaldo has 5 Ballon d'Ors to his name, while Messi has a record 8. But it's time for us football fans to realize that we've moved beyond that extraordinary honeymoon period of football and have now entered a new, more ordinary generation. Yet once again, the football community has started pointing out the corrupt, toxic, and confusing ecosystem that surrounds the Ballon d'Or. And that's what we'll be discussing today. How justified is the Ballon d'Or system? Does it truly recognize the best player of the season? We'll also evaluate the 2024 nomination list and what it says about the current state of football. The nominees, a new era? Let's start with the representation. Real Madrid has about 5 or 6 players nominated, including big names like Antonio Rudiger, Toni Kroos, Federico Valverde, Dani Carvajal, and of course Jude Bellingham, and Vinicius Jr., who are among the favorites for a top 3 finish. Over at Manchester City, we have Rodri, who is also a favorite, along with Erling Haaland, Ruben Dias, and Phil Foden. Arsenal sees Bukayo Saka, William Saliba, Martin Odegaard, and Declan Rice making the list. From Bayer Leverkusen, Florian Wirtz is a nominee, as well as Granit Xhaka and Jeremy Frimpong. Barcelona's representation includes Dani Olmo, while miscellaneous players like Ademola Lookman and Kvicha Kvaratskhelia have also made it to the list. It all sounds good until you start to notice some glaring omissions. Take Real Madrid's Rodrigo, for instance. 19 goals and 7 assists. Yet his contribution to trophies doesn't seem to count the same way it does for other players. The problematic voting system. So let's address the elephant in the room. The voting system. It's absolutely flawed, worse than anyone can imagine. The voting system we have now is very different from the one used between 2010 and 2015, when FIFA and France Football collaborated on a common voting system. Back then, there was still bias. But the introduction of diplomacy into the voting made things worse. Let me give you an example. In 2014, Roy Hodgson, an international manager at the time, gave his vote to Javier Mascherano, knowing full well that the real competition was between Messi and Ronaldo. Neither Messi nor Ronaldo voted for each other that year, opting instead to support their club teammates. Brazil's national team put Neymar as their #1 pick. It became clear that voting was more about maintaining diplomacy than actually choosing the best player. Nowadays, journalists are the primary voters, and as Johan Cruyff once pointed out, they often just display their personal biases, voting for those who are in their good books. There's no clear system or accountability, making the entire process confusing and flawed. The comparative nightmare. Now, let's move on to another issue. How do you even compare these profiles? In 2018, Luka Modric broke a decade-long duopoly held by Messi and Ronaldo. Modric's biggest competitor that year was none other than Ronaldo, who trailed by 600 to 700 points. The debate wasn't whether Modric deserved to win. Everyone knew he did. But whether Ronaldo's influence had been under-quantified. The lack of a clear parameter to measure influence has made it impossible to objectively compare players. This became even more problematic in the years to follow. Take 2021 as another example. Messi won the Ballon d'Or that year, but stood on the podium and said that Robert Lewandowski deserved it. Many people pretend that the 2019 Ballon d'Or was tough to win, but the truth is, the system has been consistently inconsistent. What does it all mean? So before we dive into the debate of whether Rodri or Bellingham deserves to win this year, we need to take a step back and evaluate the Ballon d'Or culture and system as a whole. It's toxic, corrupt, and confusing. The voting system is broken, with no clear methodology for comparing players' profiles. In the end, the Ballon d'Or has lost its credibility as an award that genuinely recognizes the best player of the season. It's become more about personal biases, diplomatic voting, and media influence than actual football performance. So, as we look at this year's nominees, let's not forget the flaws in the system that brought us here. What do you think? Is the Ballon d'Or still relevant, or has it become just another flawed system in the world of football? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts.